지금 소개해드릴 세 분은요, 건축가로서 정말 세계적인 명성을 가지고 계신 분이십니다. 이탈리아의 마리오 쿠치넬라 아키텍처의 창립자이신 마리오 쿠치넬라 교수님, 그리고요, 덴마크의 H. 라센 아키텍처의 파트너로서 서스테너블 디자인 부서의 팀장으로 일하고 계신 분이신데요. 미시즈 스네커 님, 그리고 마지막으로 포스코 ANC의 이필훈 대표님께서 그린 빌딩, Focus on the Local Green Building 트렌드라는 주제로 아주 재밌는 강연을 해 주시겠습니다. 이 친환경 건축과 관련된 이 세 분들의 디자인 철학, 경험을 공유할 수 있는 아주 소중한 시간이 되지 않을까 생각을 합니다. 자, 그러면 먼저 마리오 쿠치넬라 교수님의 강연 여러분 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, well, first I want to thank for this invitation. Be the second time in Korea. It was a great experience. And I will speak, this is the first part of the presentation. There will be another one later on in the afternoon. And I would like to talk a little bit the big numbers, what I call the big numbers, and also the Italian situation, because I think we all facing the same problem. Whatever we are in Korea, in England, in Italy, is the same. And see how these things work. Okay, the big numbers. I'll show you always maps to understand what's the size of the problem, and also why architects are involved in this discussion. Why an architect talk about energy? You know, normally there are specific people who talk about energy, but why architects are so involved? So I show you this because I see this in Italy, and I also show Korea. Italy depends on oil for 85% of electricity. So that's showing how, and you see it in different other countries in Europe, how it's different. And Italy is very fat in this picture and showing that almost 50% of all energy produced is using by buildings. So architects are fundamental for the future of energy policy, because it's design a good buildings, and design building demanding less energy is a part of the full process of energy policy. So, but if I look at another one, this nuclear power. See, Italy disappeared because we don't have nuclear power in Italy, but you see also again Korea, how big it is, you know, and France, which is a big policy, and how we're going to change this in green energy. How are we going to change the scale of this problem? This is huge. I heard that Koreans want to reduce the 20% of nuclear power energy. How are they going to do it? The scale of this big. This takes a long time, a lot of time to do it. And I think this kind of a conference is very important, because time is one of the key factors for the future. If we don't start quickly and we don't start to talk and discuss, time will be very, very difficult to manage. You know? And also, in Europe is a big discussion about sustainability, energy policy, and I think European country is really pushing a lot, but we also discussed about sustainable development. No? And if I look at this map, I find it very difficult to say we are very sustainable, because the style of life of Europeans, Americans, and maybe Korean and Japanese, which are the country more involved on the energy policy and sustainability, are in some way a paradox, no? Because we talk about something that we not do it. So that's the point. And I think it's important that we know this, we're living in some paradox, and the new paradigm is we need to change something in our heads, in our culture. And I take some reference from our common friends, Edward Mazzuria from America. And I say, well, I was curious to know how many square meter building we built today, because we all talk about big numbers, but I think we need to know. So if you're looking in researching, they would say we built 145 billion square meter, okay, today. But what's the most frightening numbers is, and that is cause, of course, about the 47% of global greenhouse gases effect. But what frightening when I read that numbers. In the next 20 years, so 2030 now is the Edward goals, we're going to build half of the square meter we built at today. Well, that's, if you look at this number, there's no green policy possible. I mean, how are we going to build all these square meter in a major developed country like Africa, India, South America? Europe is out of the game, but other countries. So I think especially in some country, I think it's very important to talk about how to make better buildings. I'm not an economist and I'm a specialist, but I think in the end of the story is about knowledge, how we can design better buildings. So I know you're going to talk about knowledge, but that's a key point. No? And Italy. Well, Italy is a beautiful country, and everybody knows that. No? I always say it's a beautiful girl with a bad character, no? Which is nice, lovely, but it's tough to living with. No? And I was making some research for this conference and say, well, this is a 2.9 billion square meter of building, and 76% is housing stock, so the existing housing stock. And the standard buildings, the standard housing in Italy is about 180 kilowatts per square meter here. So it's very high consumption, it's really high. And other buildings, like office buildings, is consuming, it's 400 and plus. So the bills Italy pay in the end of 1 year, the cost of buying energy and producing energy is 67 billions of euro. It's the biggest bill we have in Italy. So we talk about crisis, we talk about many problems in economies, we talk about people don't have money, and we spend a huge amount of money to eating and cooling a poor building. This is a paradox. This is a paradox of any kind of economy, you know. So now it's a big discussion about how we're going to deal with this problem. And I think Susan talked about poverty and the reaction to the people and the fraction between people and politics, which I think is the key point of this policy. So Italy is so bad that we are third place in Europe in terms of CO2 emissions. And then everybody knows that we have a target. You know, Europeans say to us, to every single state, we need to reduce the 20% energy demand, we need to reduce 20% CO2 emission, and we need to increase 20% energy from renewable, which is very close. I mean, it's time to make the big change like this in a very conservative country in terms of industrial energy production, make this shift to reduce this target. It will be very difficult. And we Italians, other countries are faster than us. But in Italy, we're facing the slowness of the politics, the difficulty of the government, so that politics is very important to achieve this number. No? And that's what's going to happen very clearly now in Italy. 2020 should be a big, what to say in English? We're going to pay to a European Commission 3 billion euro because we don't get achieving these numbers, which is another paradox. So if you follow this process, you see how many failures, no? So how are we going to do it, no? And of course, in Europe, every state have a different policy and different way to do it. In France, the HQA. In England is another one. In Germany is another one. Anyway. But more or less, we all go in the same direction. No? In Italy, as we discussed last night, in Italy, the policy for energy is given to every single region. So we have 21 regions, and every region is different. So is that creating more chaotic system of calculation? And the green building is very important because in Italy is the only organization who try to keep everything together and make one policy for all. And I try to divide this presentation very quickly in what I call priority action and the good action. So the priority is retrofit on public buildings, retrofit housing stock, and new buildings. It's very important because the future in Italy, there's 145,000 architects, which is a huge number. I think it's the same numbers of all Europe, something like this. And almost the architects, they have no work. It's very little work. And the increasing numbers, increasing number of architects, and the work is coming down. So I don't know how it's going to happen in the future, but I think architects, they have a lot of work to do, because retrofitting existing buildings should be in the next future one of the major parts of the work. How are we going to dealing with the existing stock building and the public buildings? Just to give you an example of number. So retrofit on public buildings is reducing the energy demand from the class energetic is 400 and whatever to the class B, not A, B. And that's 1.2 billions of energy of euro energy saved. There are 43,000 schools and 13,600 public buildings that need help. So there's a huge amount of work. And maybe with this money, we can pay enough fee for architects for the first year to save, and then save again money and give a job to architects. And it's a huge amount of work. 43,000 schools, it doesn't mean only in energy. They don't have only energy problem. They have a earthquake problem, security. They have electricity problems. So there's a lot of things need to be done. And when I say architects, they don't have a lot of work, I think there's something wrong, because there's a lot of work. There are a lot of work. And just to give an example of the project of public buildings, we are now start to build this university in Aosta, close to the Mont Blanc, and it is a mix between new buildings and existing buildings. And this is the existing building, should be refurbished, and this is the new one. And this is a building should be built under the regulation of Nero energy buildings. This should be more or less what the European has in the future for public buildings. And the energy retrofit will be class B, and the new construction in class A. But what the elements of this building is what I say, the good action, shape is very important. We did this project 3 times, because 3 times we work in different shapes for 3 different energy results. So there's a relation between form and performance. And what I'm saying is, the big mistake is in the beginning. The big mistake is the architecture, not the technical. Technology, we can always find a good way to resolving problems. The first problem is the architecture. So shape efficiency, geothermal, natural ventilation, insulation. So it's a combination of strategies. But that's why I think architects are very important. In this story about the green buildings, I think I would like to shift the idea that architecture is much more important than technology. Because technology, we can make a better technology, more efficient. But building, when they're wrong, they're wrong. So when the building, they don't have knowledge, then they don't have knowledge. If they're stupid, there's nothing you can do. So that's why I think it's very important for architects to be fully involved in knowledge about energy, but definitely in more creativity. I think you say creative economy. I think we need more creative architecture, but in a good way, not extravaganza, which is you showing, what this kind of a terrible building. No extravaganza, but we need the knowledge and creativity, which is not an easy exercise. So retrofit in housing, this is a huge numbers. Retrofit in housing to change the energetic class, which means it means 20 billion euro a year for supply energy to poor buildings, which is and I think Susan showed in the protest of people for a ticket in the bus. But this is a problem of people pay energy. It's a huge amount of money, and there will be less people, especially on the low class, that will be able to pay the energy. So I think all this, if you look at the economy, like a creative economy, for me, this is the creative economy. It's a part of the creative economy. And we are now working in this renovation. Just to give an example, this is a very 1965 social housing, and what we are doing, we with people inside, we just make a new cladding, new installation, but that's not enough, because that should be the easy part of the job. The work is, and now we already did the new installation, but the work is to transform in this building. In the top of the building, there will be residential for students. So, and it's a social change in the way the building is used. Now, it's families, and they're using the same lift, the same stairs. They go upstairs, and there is a residential for students, and the people were so happy that somebody take care about them. Say, well, they were living 40 years in a terrible building, and now we renovate it, and plus we just give them new energy. No? And of course, it's also technical, how you make the facade, how you can change your glass, how you can put this building in the top. This is all wood construction, prefabricating, easy to build, fast to do. But I think I like the idea that we always focus our intention in terms of energy in the social aspect. And so why we do all this? I mean, for the economy? Yes, okay. For the environment? Yes, okay. But it definitely is something we need to do. We need to work for the future, especially in our contemporary city, where we are missing so many things. We're missing public space. We're missing the capacity of people connected, quality, aesthetical. There's a lot of things. And that is so now we are starting to do it, this kind of top of the buildings. And I mean, good action, of course, are a little bit technical, because then buildings are made by materials and performance and things. But I think the key issue on this project was the proposal of mix people with students. That was the engine of the change. And now we are ambition, but not too ambition too, because energy retrofit on the existing building was in Class B, and new construction, of course, should be. And then have a benefit on everyday life for the energy bills, for families, very, very low income families. And of course, we talk also about the new buildings, but in Europe, we're going to do so little new buildings, maybe few, and of course, they will be perfect in terms of energy, zero bill, zero carbon emission, everything. But for me, the part of my work, if I'm working in Europe, will be more about how we can retrofit building or rechange use of buildings. So working on the existing. And we did this project for a social housing called A Home for €100,000. And then was how to make buildings, simple buildings, very cheap, but all the discussion was about the way how people living together and which kind of a house they're looking for. It's not only energy. The society was changed so dramatically in the last 40 years in Italy, in everywhere, and buildings are still the same, and people are completely changed. I mean, you can see residential buildings everywhere. It's just the same typology, numbers of rooms, and that's not the way the people are living. In the 40 years, people have completely changed the way they work, they think it, they living together, completely different social organization of people. And that's why we did this building is like a loft, and everybody's finished the space whatever they like in relation of the style of life. And this is an office building, is the 3M headquarters in Milan, and showing this housing, this is offices. Of course, big company, they have the money to also to invest on these kind of things. And 3M, I mean the chemical company in the United States, we make for them this building. Of course, it was the most sustainable building in Milan and Italy because they want to express the ethic, And this one is for the BNP, the Paris Bank in Milan too, And all these buildings are on the top rank of energy, the top rank of energy production, less CO2 emission, and showing then, I think what I would like to show here is only the idea that energy is a creative opportunity. It's not a limitation, because if you're working in energy, you're working in relation with climate, social context, physical context, and your answer is different for different place. So this home, the 100,000 K home was fixed in class A in terms of energy. And of course, the new buildings have also have a huge impact in terms of euros. No? But for me, this is building energy policy as a catalyst for social change. Is for me is something which I think is the work. Why I'm an architect. That's why I'm an architect, of course. And for me, what we discussed in Italy, there was a big discussion now how to create new jobs and also how creating a new economy. Maybe not in the big scale, but is related to investment on buildings. No? And 1 billion euro invest in building and in energy retrofit is mean an economy for 3.3 billion in the next 10 years, which means practically a small company who's working in small building, in big building, change the windows, do new cladding. So it's a more horizontal economy, more made by small companies working in single buildings. And I think this is what we need. You know, we don't need only big corporations. We need also a very horizontal economy. And architecture is the same. There will be a lot of architects will be involved in small projects. And I think we need to also change our idea. The architecture is only a skyscraper of 700 meters high, but it is how you take care about the city. I think Susan talked about the East Island. This is a huge amount of work to do, how to reduce that, design a new landscaping, design a new landscape street, using different material is an object of, and the quality of this design with the benefit for the people. That's why we do all this work, you know. And I think just to finish and of course, a job creation, no? Because now the politics in Italy and in Europe are concentrating on job creation, how we can increase income for families. No? And I think, again, creative green economy, I will be called, because that's what we need, you know, is a creative green economy to make more distribution of money in families. No? I think best living conditions, social regeneration, money saving. So it's the goals of all this philosophy of green economy is really for the benefit and raise the standard of life in our cities. Just to finish this short presentation is about what we do, you know, because then in the end an architect talk, but an architect needs to be built. You know? If you don't build, it's half of the story. You know? And this is the project we designed in the last 10 years, and that's the building we built. You know? And that's showing a history of architects. They design a lot of things and they build a little bit less than what they, so the effort is huge, you know. But you can see the gray dot is the regulation, energy policy, energy regulation in different places. And the green is the effort we did with, of course, support our client to make a better building. So show then you can design building out of regulation, because regulation are very slowly to accept the change. The market is much faster, and people asking for different things. The people asking for better building, whether regulation existing or not. So. But for me, the point which I want to stress, because I think architects are very important. I hope there are a lot of architects here. Because part of this reduction in terms of, I calculate in CO2 emissions, but part of this reduction is done by technology, of course, because you have more performance machine. But the most important part of the work is the architecture. So the way you design your building. And then coming back to the beginning, when I'm saying architects is very important, because we can talk about a lot of technical stuff. But I think the fundamental things is the quality of knowledge and the rise the education in how to design. I think, Susan, you thought about how, architect and engineer, at a certain moment they decide to make two different roads. Architects design shapes and aesthetical, engineering solving the serious problem. No? When we divide these two knowledge, that's the problem of Vignoli skyscraper, because you design a shape, you don't know the consequences. And I think that's, for me, the knowledge. We need to come back, as it was 1,000 years ago, there was only one way to do it. It's only one knowledge. It was not different knowledge. And I think this was Yes, and I hope to see you in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mario Cucinella, for your esteemed opinion.